Hold on tight for the next hour. You're entering into a place, a zone called the alternative to the alternative media. It's a place, a special place where even truth seekers fear to tread.
All right, people, let's move like we've got a purpose.
Affirmative.
Okay, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, people of all races, colors, and creeds, scoundrels and politicians, journalists and liars, globalists and the socialist elite. You're also welcome to listen if you'd like, if you can take it. Greg Anthony here on the greatest show on earth, the investigative journal on this Thanksgiving Eve. Now, if you go through the radio stations all across the country, they're going to be talking about the history of Thanksgiving, and they're going to take two approaches to it. One side will say that don't celebrate Thanksgiving. The other side will say celebrate it. So you make up your mind on that. And I also do a Thanksgiving show every year, and I use it as a guide marker for the real important story. And when was Thanksgiving? It was the first one was in October 1621, I believe. But I always do, on this day, the real story behind the story, just about the same time frame, but it was the Gunpowder Plot of 1605. And boy, do I have a bone to pick with all these historians, with all of these crazy letters, PhD, scholar of the Brookings Society, whatever you want to call it. Boy, are they off base, because I did a look at the internet research catalog of the Gunpowder Plot, and boy, they have failed to really nail who did it. They cover up for guess who? The Jesuits and Roman Catholics behind it. Oh, they mention a few things about it, but they really don't get into even the court case that was going on that nailed these people. But that reminds me of a couple other things. When we talk about the Abraham Lincoln assassination, we even fail to talk about the Jesuits again. And we fail to talk about the court case Lincoln was involved with when the Jesuits tried to frame a priest who was trying to out the Roman Catholics for their stance on creating the Civil War, as well as wanting to make this whole country Roman Catholic. Yeah. What do you know? And most people will say, well, so what? Well, when you look at the hidden agenda behind it, folks, you won't say, so what? So let's talk about this a little bit. I use this day to talk about the real history. And these overpaid historians, boy, and these pundits that come on a lot of these talk shows that fail to get to this story, I have nothing but sadness in my heart, because it's really a good story. And my question to you all, and to those who click on the radio station and click it off when they hear this, and for those producers of radio shows and owners of radio stations that would kick me off the air before they could snap their fingers, I want to ask you a question. Do facts really matter? You keep saying that if you're a conservative talk radio show, and you're saying, hey, the facts don't matter when it comes to Adam Schiff and the shifty Democrats, socialists who are pushing for impeachment. You say facts don't matter. And then on the other side, the shifty shifters and the CNNers are all saying, look at these conservatives. They're all liars. But you know what? Why don't both of you just settle down for a minute and ask yourselves, how come this story, factually sound, doesn't really get on air? How come? Are you afraid to put it on air? Are you a Jesuit coadjutor, working with them to keep their story hidden? Or are you just not aware? If you fall into that last category, give it a shot. Because if you go back to my shows going back 15 years, all I've ever asked was to get this story on the table. I'm not asking you to believe it. I'm saying I uncovered, as well as some other investigators, many, many facts showing that the Vatican Jesuit-led New World Order is alive and well today and behind political intrigue in our country. And I learned about that firsthand when I lived and worked in Rome as a foreign correspondent for about 7 years. Now, back to the main topic of this show. What was the Gunpowder Plot? Many people will say, I asked this question one time on my show when I used to take callers. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to start again. Yes, this show's expanding under a new name. Undercover. To get the word out. So we're not telling you where, when, or how, or why, or who. Who, what, when, where, and why, and how. All right. When I said the Gunpowder Plot years ago, people would say, oh, I saw that in a Gunsmoke edition. Oh, the Gunpowder Plot. Yeah, wasn't that when in World War II there was this movie, and I think this famous actor was in it, Charlton Heston, and he blew up the Nazi camp? No. Oh, I know. It had to do with the war against the Indians in America, and they blew up Pocahontas. No. Why do I bring up Pocahontas? I guess I get brainwashed by Trump. But you got to admit, he's kind of entertaining, isn't he? All right. What's the Gunpowder Plot? We're going to answer that question. And, Roman Catholics attempted to kill King James only because of their zeal for false doctrines of their religion. Political intrigue with the Jesuits, of course. Now, they've done this with other kings and other people all around the world. You'd be surprised how many American presidents have seen that golden dagger by the Jesuits. Now, the chief promoters of the Gunpowder Plot were the Roman Catholic clergy, specifically the Jesuit order. And in the last couple days, I've been giving you a history lesson, so to speak, a 101 on the Jesuits and Vatican-led New World Order. I'll continue that after the holidays. To get it straight, I'll be back Monday, taking a holiday. Like the rest of you, I'm celebrating getting the information out about the Gunpowder Plot, as well as having a good meal. There has been a long time, a long history, historic Roman Catholic interference in politics that seemingly goes uncovered by all these great historians and journalists we call giving us freedom of speech in America. A strange thing can be heard today, that King James was a Catholic. But King James said he had never been a Catholic. So that's a real question I'm going to leave up to everybody. I've really struggled with this one myself. But it's one I want to bring up. So I'm not saying King James is all goody, goody, goody two-shoes. But I am saying this, that it's a question that needs to be answered. Now, primary source documentation of the Gunpowder Plot, you can get it from King James himself. There's also interesting trials that were going on during this time that seem to get overlooked by even our legal scholars, who seem to tell you everything about what we have in America today, which I call a two-tier justice system. You've heard that if you listen to Fox News. I think they even say it in CNN under their breath while they're having coffee off the air. But you're seeing, nobody talks about the real true stories that happen. The Gunpowder Plot will always be there. They'll talk about Guy Fawkes. You've seen the movie Vendetta and all this kind of stuff, but they never really get to the black robes. Now, knowledge of the Gunpowder Plot can direct the attention to really what's going on today with this group of people. And I call it the Vatican-led New World Order. What about after the Gunpowder Plot? Oh, did the Jesuits just stop trying to blow up Parliament or other things they try to do, like kill presidents in America and foment the Civil War? Oh, let's start out with the Revolutionary War. Just take a look around, folks. Please, look around some more than you have if you're discounting anything I'm saying right now. But I said I'd tell you what the hell the Gunpowder Plot was. Well, it was in 1605, probably before many of you were born. Roman Catholics, amongst them Jesuits, attempted to blow up and kill King James the first of Great Britain. His wife, his son, and whoever the hell else was there, the butler, the cook, and all the people that are never get mentioned. You know, even the dogs. Isn't it, you ever watch these movies about the old aristocrats in England? They always have these dogs running around. Poor dogs, let me tell you. But they never took them out. I never see them walk the dog. They just let the dog run around. You know, that's not fair. If a king has a dog, he has to walk him every day. And if a president has a dog, he has to walk him every day or don't have a dog. These presidents in the United States, just a little aside, they all have dogs, right, except for Trump. He said he doesn't like dogs or something. He doesn't want a dog. No, Trump was right. He said, I don't have time for it. Well, that's good. I mean, if you don't have time for your dog, then you shouldn't have one. So all these presidents who had dogs, they never have one. I never see them. They walk them to the helicopter, and that's it. You know, I've got 6 dogs, and I just got done walking 3 today. The 4th one I'll walk a little bit later. The 5th one is getting a little old, doesn't want to go out today. It's a little chilly. And the 6th one has just been diagnosed with brain tumors. Wow, my luck. Good old Benji. And that's taking me a lot of time. But whole history of stories. I just got over bone cancer and liver cancer with 2 other dogs. And I know what it is. It's a real labor of love. But they're well worth it. Much better than people. Let me tell you that right now. At least many of the people I've met. And I'm not even talking about my dogs. I mean, I will go out and find a stray dog that'll outdo many of these people that run Washington. Okay, so what is it? I get carried away. The Jesuits involved in the 1605 plot. Now, they tried to kill everybody around him. The son, they didn't care. Whoever was there. If you were walking around there, they'd kill you too. In one single stroke, they wanted to blow up Parliament. You know, King James, he often wrote the popes. Well, that's one problem. Roman Catholic recusants taught to kill for the Pope and about the Jesuits and their political intrigues and evil deeds. Even today, the Gunpowder Plot is still remembered every November 15th on Guy Fawkes Day. Not here, I don't think. No? And then somebody just texted me, why don't you do this on November 5th? And I said, well, you know what? It's my show, and I'll do it when I want. November 5th on Guy Fawkes, a Gunpowder Conspirator Day. I don't like that conspirator word. Isn't it amazing today, folks? You know, I don't think there's freedom of speech in this country. I can remember going back, talking about this, and getting labeled as a Mossad agent. I got labeled as a nut. I got labeled as a crazy person who had a military handler. They even gave his name out, and it's not true. Now, you're not going to convince a lot of people that, because the people saying that had bigger shows than me. And so they'll believe them. I remember I was living in a small Colorado town, and a person in my town believed that person over me, because that person had a big radio show, and he said, Greg just had this little show, and he can't be telling the truth. He must be a Mossad agent or a Jesuit coadjutor or whatever the hell they were calling me. And, you know, I looked back on it and said, wow, I'm on the right track. But anyway, take that. No freedom of speech. You get harassed. And there are people today getting harassed. Who's getting harassed a lot today? The conservative journalists. Okay? The conservative people. The left-wing globalists, socialists, who are going to take over this country one day, are really hammering these people. And I don't like that either. I mean, some really nice people that were with the Trump administration, you may not agree with them, but at least let them go out to dinner. I mean, this is ridiculous. And it's going on right before our eyes. So you see it. There is no intimidation going on, mostly from the right-wing socialist Democrats and all the people they hire. George Soros money coming in left and right. Can't talk on college campuses anymore if you got a conservative point of view. Imagine trying to get this story on. Then you don't even have a lot of conservatives on your side. Unless there's a small Christian group that knows the truth. So anyway, Guy Fawkes Day is still remembered. I better check the timing as we get carried away. All right, we got time to continue. Now, it's an amazing story, isn't it? It's just an amazing story of how they did this. But anyway, Roman Catholics, okay, the Jesuits, they wanted to blow up Parliament. They were involved in political intrigue, okay? Now, the chief promoters of this plot were, like I said, the Jesuits. And the trial records indicate that it was Roman Catholic Jesuit traitors who spurred on other Roman Catholic traitors to kill the king, his wife, his son, and anybody else who was around, including their dogs. Yeah. And I've got a lot of information here. And I hope you can get through this. I hope I can get through it. Because it was involved in the court case going on then. And let me just read this to you because I'm used to reading legal documents. But it says that whereas our sovereign lord the king had by the advice and assent of his council for divers weighty and urgent occasions concerning his majesty the state and defense of the church and kingdom of England appointed a parliament to be holden at his city of Westminster, that Henry Garnet, superior of the Jesuits within the realm of England, called also by several names, Wally Darcy Roberts Farmer and Henry Phillips, Oswald Tesman Jesuit, otherwise called Oswald Greenwald. So what they're doing, they're bringing all these people in to testify. Okay, and Thomas Percy Esquire, all Jesuits, John Wright, gentlemen, in open rebellion and insurrection against his majesty, lately slain, and Francis Tresham, Esquire, lately dead, as false traitors against our sovereign lord the king, did traitoriously meet and assemble themselves together, and being so met, the said Henry Garnet, Oswald Desmond, John Gerard, and other Jesuits, did maliciously, falsely, and traitoriously move and persuade as well the said Thomas Winter, Guy Fawkes, Robert Keyes, and Thomas Bates as the said Robert Catesby, Thomas Percy, John Wright, Christopher Wright, and Francis Tresham. Now, what are you're going to hear a lot of stories from these great historians. Oh, it was just Guy Fawkes. Who was he? There was a conspiracy. These guys put this together. It's the same thing that you hear on the Lincoln assassination. Oh, what do you hear? John Wilkes Booth shot President Lincoln at the Ford Theater. They don't talk about the other co-conspirators. Oh, Jesuit trained. Some Jesuits meeting at the house of a Jesuit sister. And also the one that escaped ended up getting refuge in the Vatican after going through Canada. And then they had to turn him over finally. And then we got into that whole trial. They don't get into any of that. They don't want to, because you know what it's going to do? It's going to open up the door and say, hey, maybe Greg was right in a few things. Maybe he was. Look at what they're hiding. But they're not going to do that. They're going to give you the lone gunman story, just like they did with Lee Harvey Oswald, and just like they did here with Guy Fawkes. Okay. And this is England. Imagine about how they cover it up in America. So they say this, that these guys, Thomas Francis Tresham and these other Jesuits that are said sovereign lord the king, the nobility, clergy, and whole commonalty of the realm of England, papists excepted, were heretics, and that all heretics were accursed and excommunicated, and the non-heretic could be a king, but that it was a lawful and meritorious to kill our said sovereign lord the king. See this was in a court case, and all the other heretics within the realm of England, for the advancing and enlargement of the pretended and usurped authority and jurisdiction of the Bishop of Rome, and for the restoring and the superstitious Romish religion within the realm of England, to which traitorous persuasions the said Thomas Winter, Guy Fawkes, Robert Keyes, etc., and all these other guys' names traitorously did yield their assembly, and thereupon the said, and they went through the same names again, traitorously, as traitors, amongst themselves, did conclude and agree with gunpowder, as it were, with one blast, suddenly and barbarously to blow up and tear in pieces our said sovereign Lord the King, the excellent, virtuous, and gracious Queen Anne, his dearest wife, most noble Prince Henry, their eldest son, and the future hope and joy of England, and the Lord spiritual and temporal, the reverend judge of the realm, the knights, citizens of Parliament, and divers other faithful subjects and servants of the King in the said Parliament, for the causes aforesaid, to be assembled in the House of Parliament, and all of them, without any respect of majesty, dignity, degree, sex, age, or place, most barbarously, and more than beastly man would ever do, and suddenly to destroy and swallow up, and further did most they did conspire and conclude among themselves, that not only the whole royal issue male of our said sovereign Lord the King should be destroyed and rooted out, but that the persons aforesaid, together with these other Jesuit traitors, Tratorius, now, they're telling you right here, 1605. Why doesn't American history start here? Let me give you a clue. Because the Jesuits were instrumental in the formation of America. They couldn't have these stories around. And in fact, most of these pilgrims that we talk about on Thanksgiving, they knew about this. The reason they came here was to get away from these people. And guess what happened? After all these centuries, they're the strongest group in America. They got their little foot in the door with that little thing in our Constitution called freedom of religion. Their idea of freedom of religion was to get in here and then to take it over and give nobody else any freedom. That's why all these Protestant churches have been basically infiltrated. And that Protestant doctrine is so lukewarm, it doesn't even seem like Christianity. And let me have a bone to pick with Catholicism. I grew up as a Catholic. Catholicism is not Christianity. And I have nothing against the Catholic people. The only thing I hope is that they read some of this stuff. And I'm thinking back now when I went to high school. I went to the all-boys school, Notre Dame, where the Holy Cross Fathers, and right across the way was Loyola in Wilmette, Illinois. And I'm thinking about all these Jesuit priests there. They probably knew nothing about this either. My God, we need freedom of the press in this country to come back. This is a travesty. I can't take it anymore. Growing up as a journalist, watching this happen to my people in America, to the people of the world, and not being able to even speak anymore. You can't even speak if you're a conservative, let alone if you want to get to the truth of this, which isn't going to hurt a damn person. It's just information. And what I said from the beginning of my show was this. I don't really want to sway your opinion one way or the other. I just want it on the table of discussion. Because factually, there's so much of it. Look at this. And it's forgotten. It's erased from history. And if you go back to a lot of my shows, those facts are proven out. Time and time again. Time and time again. All right. So we got that out of the way. This is the case they were bringing up against all these traitors. And they were involved in so much of this stuff. And that's really what these people came to America for, to get away from this treachery. And it goes on to this day. Now, the one thing I really would love these historians to do is earn your money and tell us the truth about our founding fathers, you know. Hell, they had a lot of good. Sure. But there was something going on behind the scenes that set this up. And we've presented some facts that need to be on the table, at least talked about. And not basically, anytime I bring up something that says the Jesuits were involved with our founding fathers, nobody wants to discuss it. They just want to criticize you. They just want to shut you up. And that's included some anti-Jesuit researchers. Back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device and smartphone absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org. When it comes to prophecy today, much of the evangelical Christian world has their eyes on Israel, waiting and watching to see when the third temple will begin to be built. The plans are drawn. The Jewish people are eager. Most evangelical Christians today believe that the rapture will happen before the third temple is built. Hi, I'm Michael Eugene. I was taught that Daniel's 70th week was in the future. Is that really what the Bible teaches? Have we searched the scriptures and found this to be true? Why is it so important for a re-established Israel to build a third temple in Jerusalem? Is it necessary to build a temple on the same location already occupied by the Dome of the Rock? Is it necessary for sacrifices to take place in the temple on Temple Mount? Is there really a rapture followed by 7 years of tribulation? What is the New Testament temple? Can we identify history and prophecy? Who is the first beast in Revelation chapter 13? Who are the 7 kings in Revelation 17? I have asked all these questions, and I have found Nicholas Arthur's new book, When the Third Temple is Built, answers all these questions and more using Scripture to interpret Scripture. The Bible says that no prophecy of Scripture is of any private interpretation. Nicholas shows us in his new book, When the Third Temple is Built, how the Bible interprets prophecy and not man's private interpretation. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of Nicholas Arthur's new book titled When the Third Temple is Built. That's crosstheborder.org.
The following program is labeled dangerous and off limits by the supreme Jesuit command. But stand tall, people. Listen up, and you may just learn something.
Oh, dear Lord Jesus, this ain't happening, man. This can't be happening, man. This isn't happening.
Okay, folks, back for the second half hour, and remember what that promo said. Watch out for that supreme Jesuit command. I'm telling you, they hide behind every rock. You don't know who the hell they are half the time, but man, they will try to cut your head off, keep you quiet if you start talking about this stuff. That's why a lot of people don't do it, you know? And you Christians out there, boy, thank God there's a show like this, because I bring together both the spiritual and this political secular stuff. And it really shows you what you're up against. I mean, you're up against it today. You're up against the wall today. Christians, folks, are being persecuted all over the world. And there's little talk about it on the news. Why? Because the hell, they're all pagans. I mean, yeah, I try to make it simple, but it's crazy. Oh, you're going to hear about it a little on Fox News. And there are some guys that, Christians are getting screwed all over the place. And boy, we don't even talk about it. Look back to some of my shows when I talk about the millions that are being persecuted every day for their religion. And people here in America are being persecuted in kind of a silent way. They've been given a false doctrine in their Protestant churches. And this is done through Jesuit infiltration. We've talked about this many times. And there are some other great guys out there that really do a good job on it. So this show is not meant to be anything more than to open your eyes to some of these facts that are hidden. And I'm taking the stuff here on the Gunpowder Plot from excerpts from the trials that were taken on January 27th, one of these, it was around January 27th, 1605. No, that was the plot. That was the Gunpowder Plot, but these were the trials afterwards, sorry. Taken from the trials of Robert Winter, Thomas Winter, Guy Fawkes, John Grant, Ambrose Rookwood, Robert Keyes, Thomas Bates, and Sir Everard Digby in the Westminster for high treason, being conspirators in the Gunpowder Plot, many if not all Jesuits, or Jesuit coadjutors as they say. But what they're really trying to do is this. Let's go back and let me finish this up. is, okay, so they were trying to, wherein, as it was especially agreed by and between these said conspirators, that no mention should be made at first of the alteration of religion established within the realm of England, neither would be said false traitors therein acknowledge themselves to be authors or actors or devisers of the aforesaid most wicked and horrible treasons, until they had got sufficient power and strength for the assured execution and accomplishment of their said conspiracy and treason, and that there would be avow and justify the said most wicked and horrible treasonous as actions, that were in a number of those, okay, which be not to be commended before they be done, but by and said feigned and traitorous proclamation they would publish, that all and singular abuses and grievances within the realm of England should, for satisfying the people, be reformed, and that as all well for the better concealing as for the more effectual accomplishing of this said horrible act of treason. As well the said on all those guys' names by the traitorous advice and procurement of the said Henry Garnet, Oswald Tesman, John Gerard, and other Jesuits, did further conclude and agree that as well the said all these other people I mentioned thereupon severally and traitorously should receive several corporal oaths upon the holy evangelists and the sacrament of the Eucharist, that they the treasonous aforesaid would traitorously conceal and keep secret. The Jesuits' secret, and would not reveal them directly or indirectly by words or circumstances, nor even with deceit from the execution and final accomplishment of said treasons, without the consent of some 3 of the aforesaid false traitors, first in that behalf traitorously had, and that thereupon as well the said, like I said, stick with me, they talked a little differently back then, right? Still English. First in that behalf traitorously had, that Wright and Tresham did traitorously take the said several corporal oaths severally, and did receive the sacrament of the Eucharist aforesaid by the hands of the said Henry Garnet, John Gerard, Oswald Tesman, and other Jesuits. And further, that the said Thomas Winter, Guy Fawkes, etc., etc., by the traitorous advice and counsel of Henry Grant and John Gerard and other Jesuits for the most effectual compassing and final execution of blowing up Parliament. Now, I guess they caught him. And here's the values. Now, behind this, there's a huge story, shouldn't there be? There's a huge story. This wasn't a single act by some, bad apples in the barrel. There was a long history that people back then knew about these people, the Jesuits and the Vatican and all this kind of, stuff they used to do behind the scenes to take over a country to make it simple. But anyway, there has been, like I said, a long history of Jesuit and Vatican interference in politics. And, in light of the historic acts they've done against kings, toppling thrones, assassinating kings and presidents, ordering kings and presidents around in the most grievous manner, deceiving kings, making kings their vassals, it is little wonder that King James spoke so often about the divine right of kings to rule their kingdoms. He often spoke about Rome's role in such an abominable practice. And here's a quote from him. He said this. And like I said, I don't know one way or other on King James here, what he was. And it's hard. And I want you to maybe chime in on that, what your history books tell you and what you've uncovered. And he said this, he says, was not he that killed the forenamed king? Was not he one of the clergy? Was not Gignard a Jesuit? Did not Ravaillac, that monster of men, upon interrogatories made at his examination, refer his examiners to the sermon made the Lent next before, where they might be satisfied concerning the causes of his abominable and undertaking and execution? Are not Bellarmine, and boy, this name's got 100 letters, I'll call him Uday, Suarez, Bicanes, Mariana, with such other monsters who teach the doctrine of patricide, killing kings, killing fathers of kings, killing fathers of countries, not like businessmen kings today. Are they not all clerics, Jesuits? Are not all their books approved and allowed? What were the heads, the chief promoters, the complicitors of the powder conspiracy in my kingdom? Were they not from the same group of Jesuits and ecclesiastics? Okay. So we see this stuff, and then it's never talked about today. That's the real problem. Now, there's an article, King James was never a Roman Catholic. We got to talk about this. And because what I'm getting at when I say this, I remember doing a story on King James once, and then I got some great information that this was a guy who played both sides of the coin. Now, I'm not saying he didn't, but let's see what it says here. Maybe you got some rebuttal information, but this article stated that he was never a Roman Catholic, includes information on what appears to be an extremely misleading excerpt found on the Fordham University website. Fordham is a Jesuit university. The Fordham webpage has an out-of-text excerpt from James' works, emphasizing where King James states that he was a Catholic. Okay. Catholic Christian, okay? In the paragraph right before that statement, King James was emphasizing that he never been a Catholic. Moreover, the entire premonition itself was a broadside against Rome. Is this an example of the Jesuit way of proceeding, mentioned at the University of Scranton, a Jesuit university website? An excerpt from our index page? An excerpt from Jesuit Tradition. Okay? Go to it. You can get it at www.scranton, and it's got a long line of letters, but their mission, they say, okay, this is an excerpt from it. Here's their mission. The University of Scranton is a Catholic and Jesuit university animated by the spiritual vision and the tradition of excellence characteristic of the Society of Jesus and those who share its way of proceeding. The Roman Catholic Jesuit order is known of all things as the Society of Jesus. That's what I'm saying. It's crazy that they do that, right? Well, when people hear it, they just, they're priests. Hell, they don't do anything. And, their order is set up like a military order, so I'm not saying that all the low-level priests know what the hell we're talking about here, and most don't. And let me tell you something. I did this once before, and I'm toying about doing it again. But I wrote out a whole bunch of questions to the Jesuits. Now, they're set up with little, they've divided our country, I believe, into 10 different parts. And each different area has a Jesuit head, and then they report to the main guy, the main Jesuit, and he reports to Rome. So I started calling them, asking these questions. And I did it kind of in a rhetorical manner. I knew they're not going to answer, but I wanted to know that somebody was asking them. So I think I'll do it again and see what comes of it now, 10 years later. Maybe they really don't know. I went to the Hall of Records, one of the top Jesuit places in America, and asked the guy in the head of this stuff who keeps all this history stuff. And he said he didn't know anything about what I said regarding many little Jesuit plots against presidents, against the American Indians, a lot of different things. They thought, we don't know anything. But now, there's a lot of stuff about the Gunpowder Plot, and you can find it from reading King James himself about what happened and other things. And King James, the fourth and the first on the Gunpowder Plot, you can find something there. King James, it says, just to give you a little paragraph here, did not want non-guilty Roman Catholics to receive any unjust treatment by his people. Okay? Now, there was a discourse of the manner of the discovery of the powder treason, joined with the examination of some of the prisoners. And that's interesting. This is an interesting up-close, play-by-play overview of how King James and the British Parliament were miraculously spared being blown up in the Gunpowder Plot, treason by Roman and by Jesuits, conspirators such as Guy Fawkes, Jesuit conspirators Garnet, Oswald, Oldercorn, etc. A lot of the names I mentioned earlier. One also has the opportunity to see with what fairness King James and his counselors proceeded, in order by law, by mercy, only showing the rack to the obstinate, disrespectful Fawkes. To call any of the executed conspirators a martyr is a blatant proof of unrepentance for such a heinous attempt. One also sees that one of the king's subjects had a clear relationships with Catholics involved in the plot. It was this Catholic that tried to warn the subject not to be in the Parliament House. There was not a hate relationship with Catholics in England, okay? Just like, for example, there isn't a hate relationship with, people that fill the pews in Catholic churches here with Protestants or people that didn't even know this story. But I'm telling you something. The people at the top need to be outed, okay? So you can look at a lot of different things. The history of the popes and Jesuits troubling the state required action in order to secure the state. And look at what the Spanish Armada, you never talk about that, of 1588. That's an interesting story. During those times, Roman Catholics were openly taught that it is a meritorious good thing to kill a king out of the Pope's favor. Okay? Refers to Catholics who are citizens in various countries that were taught this back then. Okay? So, there's a lot of different things you can get regarding the Gunpowder Plot, and I'm going to give you the place to go at the end of the show if you want to learn more. Because I'm getting it here right from the horse's mouth. Somebody that did some really tremendous research on this. And I add this to my collection of stuff that I've done years past. But what's happening today is important that you understand the Gunpowder Plot. Because the Gunpowder Plot is much more than a single unfortunate incident. Now, for those of you who are listening to me now, and you know who you are, that are really seriously seeking the truth, this understanding of what really went on here and the cover-up can help open the door as to who the Roman Catholic institution really is at the highest levels, what it's done in the past, and what they are doing today. Look, my biggest critics years ago were always people that said, well, that was them then and this is now. Well, the them and the there and the now are the same because this institution never changes. Because it's Mystery Babylon the Great. You've seen the warning if you've read Revelation 17 in the Bible. The issue regarding these last days is not anti-Catholic. No. Now, most Christians have always told me when I started looking for the truth, because there are 100 different Bibles out there, what Bible should you go to? And they always told me King James version of 1611. And there was a version before that. Okay? And that version, it was the Geneva Bible. Much of that was taken into King James, although footnotes were taken out of the Geneva Bible, which pinpointed the Vatican as being this Antichrist and other things in the book of Revelation. And I always ask myself, why'd they take it out? And that led me to believe, who really is King James? What side was he on? And that's the question I really can't answer. And I want you to help me with that. But in this version of the 1611 King James Bible, it makes it clear that the issue is the Antichrist, and it shows the precise characteristics of the Antichrist and the man of sin. Right now, each person is making his choice as to whether he will serve Christ or not. If you're in the Christian world, you make that choice. Or whatever he will serve. A beast and a man of sin shall rise in the earth, they say. Satan shall give him his seat and power and great authority in Revelation 13. Now, years and years ago, back around this time, the Gunpowder Plot and other things that were going on, there were Jesuits that were seeing, one of the reasons they were formed, and their main reason was to get rid of Protestantism, bring back and not allow people to read the Bible or to kill them, bringing back the power to Rome. But they were hearing this idea that the Vatican is the Antichrist institution, that it will always be, and it's laid out in the Bible, and people were talking about that, and the Geneva Bible pointed it out. So they came up with a couple ideas, and they said, let's really confuse them, and this is how they operate. One of the Jesuits, you can check them in history, said, no, the Antichrist isn't the papacy. It's a man that came about hundreds of years ago in the 3rd or 2nd century. I'm not sure exactly when, because I'm talking off the top of my head. So he was arguing that the Antichrist already came. Then another Jesuit said, no, you're wrong. The Antichrist is coming in the future in the form of a man. Could be a king, could be this, could be that, but it isn't the Vatican. So that's what they were doing. And they're doing that today. Go into your churches in Protestantism here, in the world of the Protestant world, and ask your pastor, who do you think the Antichrist is, and see what you get. Don't let the Jesuit command know you're onto them. But anyway, God in the Bible cannot be contacted directly, so we can't ask him. I wish we could. Don't you really like that idea? Directly, I'm picking up my cell phone here. And everybody should have an opportunity to call God, right? G-O-D. Make it simple. Wouldn't it be nice? Let him solve it. That's one of the questions I love, but I know it'll never be answered. I get so many different answers, but it's fun. Why didn't God just make it easy? Why did he make it so goddamn hard? Not swearing in his name. Okay. Man must come through his Son. That's what they tell me. The Lord Jesus Christ. Church people are becoming perilously close to the unpardonable sin. They are ignorantly and horribly using names of God in order to contact devils, which they think are God. Well, anyway, I'm not going to get too much farther into this. But if you really are striving to be a Christian, do it the right way. That's all I'm saying. And really, really look into it all. And that means you got to look into the good and the bad. And I provide a lot of the bad when I talk about the occult and going into a lot of their books and things that interest me, because I really like to know who this enemy is. That's all we really do. Let me check the timing. I'm usually pretty good at it. Wow. I'm glad I checked it. I could have gone on forever. Isn't that funny how life is sometimes? I do that. I've done this show, thousands of hours of radio. Radio guests. People used to say, Greg, you're such a great interviewer. Why don't you interview people anymore? And I say, well, I'm just about done with this segment of my life, and I'll be interviewing people in the future, getting tired of listening to myself. But no, one of the reasons was I wanted to get this off my chest, and it took a while. And I'm going to go back and do some interviews on some normal things, as they say. But really, the problem is you got to get it off your chest. You got to do it. You got to say what's on your mind and be who you are. And like I said, if you're going to be a Christian, you're going to be a Buddhist, you're going to be a Hindu, you're going to be an atheist, do it the right way. That's your choice. And who am I to judge? I'm not here to judge. I'm here to just get some facts out. And far too many journalists today. That's why there's no freedom of speech in this country. That's why the Constitution has been ripped up, because they judge. They have an opinion they think no one else does. It's ridiculous. But to end the show in the last minute, guess who's ending it? I guess my dogs decided to do the ending. They're tired. They said, he's talked enough today. Let us get in. But anyway, I wanted to get into more showing you how the Gunpowder Plot is really alive and well today. And history shows that Jesuits went forth to continue after this to interfere in political affairs and nations and causing troubles even amongst popes, Catholics, and Catholic kings. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And they're still doing it today. Yep, still doing it today. And that's why you're going to come back to my show, because I talk a lot about it. But I'm not doing it in a malicious manner. And I just want people to get it out out on the table. That's what we're here for, right? It's Thanksgiving Day. Everybody puts everything on the table, right? You're going to put mashed potatoes there, even if you don't like them. You're going to put Jesuits on the table of discussion, even if you like them. That's all I'm saying. And by the way, in the last few minutes here, have a great Thanksgiving Day with your family, your loved ones, and the people that are important to you. And enjoy every moment of it, because take it from me, and take it from a lot of other people that have been here on this earth, it goes by so fast that at the end you're going to say something like, wow, what really happened here? But anyway, have a good day tomorrow. You'll know what's happened. Love your family, be with them, and see you Monday on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy.
Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. Invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.